It's April 22nd here in Seoul, and I'm Kim Dami. We begin with the stories making the headlines at this hour. Starting with the South Korean government push for medical reform. The government stands firm on its stance despite calls from medical school chiefs to drop the plan to increase the medical school enrollment quota. The Presidential Special Committee on Medical Reform, a social consultative body that discusses medical reform tasks, will be launched on Tuesday. An Israeli offensive in Rafah may be on the way within the next few days. Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hinted to put pressure on Hamas to get Israeli hostages out of the region. A much-needed U.S. military and economic aid is set to reach Ukraine as early as this week, after the House of Representatives approved $61 billion of war aid for Ukraine. The latest developments in the medical school enrollment quota dispute have seen neither side backing down. Doctors are refusing calls for talks without the possibility of a quota freeze on the table, while the government is prepared to launch a task force to discuss the issues with or without their representation. Our Moon Hae-dun reports.
The medical community and government have come to a stalemate once again, despite the government's attempts to facilitate discussions and allow some flexibility regarding their decision to increase the medical school quota. On Sunday, the deans of 40 medical schools across the country submitted a joint statement demanding that the medical school admissions quota for 2025 be kept as is without any increases. The Korean Medical Association and a group of medical school professors all backed this statement, along with junior school doctors taking the stance that no dialogue with the government can take place without the topic of a medical school quota freeze on the table. This comes just 2 days after Prime Minister Han Duck-soo announced that the government will allow each medical school to freely decide the number of students that can enroll for 2025, allowing schools to independently recruit between 50% and 100% of the previously suggested increased quota. As the need for conversation between the two sides grows, a special task force is due to launch on Thursday. The task force, made up of 6 government officials and 20 non-government officials, such as experts and representatives from doctors' groups, will discuss pivotal issues in the government's plans for medical reform. But the Korean Medical Association has rejected this call for talks, saying that the purpose and organization of the task force is not concrete, and that it feels its opinions will not be heard. Junior doctors, the key personnel who have been staging mass walkouts, have not yet confirmed whether they will be sending representatives to the task force meeting. Even if doctors refuse to participate in a task force meeting this week, the government plans to push ahead with the task force. Meanwhile, resignations from medical school professors that were submitted last month in solidarity with junior doctors will take effect starting on Thursday. With concerns arising over further staff shortages at hospitals, the Health Ministry has extended the employment of 184 military and public doctors to ensure emergency medical treatment. Moon Hae-dun, Arirang News.
Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu hinted at launching an offensive in Rafah, emphasizing he would put military pressure on Hamas within the next few days to rescue his country's hostages. Lee Seung-ja has more.
During his Passover speech on Sunday, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu announced that he would put military pressure on Hamas within the next few days to rescue Israeli hostages. The Israeli Prime Minister said that Hamas has rejected all offers to release hostages, adding that the military group has not backed down from its extreme positions. According to Netanyahu, military action is the only solution to rescue hostages.
Therefore, we will land additional painful blows on it, and it will happen soon. In the coming days, we'll increase the military and political pressure on Hamas, because this is the only way to free our hostages and achieve our victory.
While Netanyahu's remarks don't confirm the start of an operation in Rafah, the Times of Israel reported that the Israeli Army Chief of Staff approved a battle plan for the Southern Command on Sunday. Israel believes that the Hamas leadership is hiding in the Rafah region and that a military operation to enter Rafah is essential to end the war. However, the international community, including the United States, have been trying to deter Israel from taking such action, saying that an offensive in Rafah, where about 1.4 million Palestinian refugees have gathered, could lead to huge losses of civilian lives. Meanwhile, nearly 200 bodies were discovered in a mass grave inside Nasser Hospital compound in Khan Yunis. Palestinian authorities say the Israeli military is responsible for the mass grave, which included bodies of elderly women, children, and young men. The discovery follows another mass grave found at Al-Shifa Hospital last week. More than 34,000 Palestinians have been killed in Gaza since the war began over 6 months ago. 이승재, Arirang News.
With the U.S. House of Representatives approving a $61 billion U.S. aid package for Ukraine on Saturday, the Senate is expected to advance the bill in the coming days ahead of President Joe Biden signing it into the law. U.S. Senator Mark Warner said in an interview with CBS News on Sunday. With the president expected to sign the bill on Tuesday or Wednesday, the U.S. could begin transferring long-range Army tactical missile systems to Ukraine by the end of the week. Warner said Washington has been preparing to provide ATACMS for the past several months, with the missile system support being specified in the budget bill. Now, the Democrat majority Senate is expected to pass the bill on Tuesday. Israel and Iran on Friday both appear to have played down an apparent Israeli airstrike near a major airbase and nuclear site in central Iran. Now, what's on their mind now? Let's turn to Professor Park Hyun-do for more. Welcome to the program.
Thank you for having me.
Professor, let's delve into it. Why are the two sides keeping their cool now?
Well, they don't actually, both of them do not want any wider or bigger war anymore. And also with the high pressure from the United States, because United States does not want any bigger or wider war happening in the Middle East, as actually it is preparing for the election. So the political situation right now does not allow the bigger war or wider war to be taking place.
So the timing of the conflict is not in their favor at the moment. Now, it also appears that Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu had more things to gain than lose from the recent tensions with Iran, didn't he? I mean, especially with the military aid approvals by the U.S.
Well, definitely. Actually, Iran used to call, Iran has been calling the United States as a great Satan and Israel as a little Satan. And actually, Israel Israel was offended by the huge barrage of missiles and drones from Iran. And for Israelis, Iran is archfoe. And Netanyahu used to say that the biggest threat to the security of Israel is Iran. That is shared by all Israelis. So when Netanyahu was fighting against Iran, his approval rating goes up. And the United States considers Iranian threat as a big security issue to the Israel. So now the United States they come forward to pouring huge amount of money to foreign aid to Israel. So the Netanyahu didn't lose anything, even though some of the military bases were destroyed by the Iranian forces. But nevertheless, his political life is actually strengthened, and also his popularity, particularly in his fight against Iran, goes up.
Definitely. The thing is, the tensions are yet to be tamed. And how likely is it that Israel and Iran will actually push ahead with a full war confrontation?
I don't think it is very probable or possible, because actually both sides, again, I like to emphasize, they do not want any bigger or wider war because they will lose everything. But so-called shadow war, the using proxies for confrontation between these two, will continue. And also the Iran would not step down. Iran would support the proxies, so-called proxies. Those actually the militias and military organizations in Lebanon and Iraq and Syria and Yemen. And at the same time, Israel would not stop providing assistance to the anti-Iranian government forces inside Iran. So so-called proxy wars between these two will continue.
So for both of them, more things to lose than gain for now. Also, the U.S. House of Representatives finally passed a bill for a $61 billion in new U.S. military aid for Ukraine. Now, what significance does it carry?
Well, it is a huge actual win for the President Zelensky of Ukraine. And at the same time, it's a huge actually the win for the Prime Minister of Israel, Netanyahu, because Israel got $26 billion and Ukraine got almost more than $61 billion, which is a huge amount of the foreign package. Even though actually in terms of the foreign aid to Ukraine is normally will be spent for the ammunitions and the firepowers, and definitely more like a indirect actually even though it is indirect investment, but it is more like a direct investment in United States defense system. Nevertheless, Zelensky was actually hungry for all these, particularly hungry for the help from the United States. So this may be a turning point in actually turning the tide of the war between Ukraine and Russia. But it will not actually help Ukraine to win the war. Probably it will help Ukraine to lose more territories to the Russian forces.
So are you saying that it's not going to be a game changer for Ukraine?
I'm very pessimistic about it.
Okay. Well, it still looks like Israel and Ukraine will once again feel the weight of the American support. Good things for now. All right, Professor Paganda, thank you so much for your insight this morning. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
South Korea is set to shift the categorization of COVID-19 to endemic. Now, that means some of the last remaining mandatory safety measures will be dropped, including indoor mask requirements at hospitals. Our Kim Bo-kyung has more.
From alert to the lowest level of attention. Starting May 1st, South Korea will fully shift its COVID-19 status to endemic, lowering the disease in its 4-level crisis system from the second highest to the lowest. This decision comes more than 4 years after the first COVID-19 infection was identified on January 20th, 2020. The health authorities cited the country's stable situation with a low fertility rate, and none of the particularly dangerous variants being detected as the reasons behind the decision.
COVID-19 is safely being managed. After we listened to experts' advice twice, last January and April, most of them agreed on the possibility of lowering the crisis level.
According to the Korea Disease Control and Prevention Agency, the number of new COVID-19 patients in the second week of April was 22,083, a sharp drop from the 47,005 reported in the first week of March. Another reason behind the decision was that no other new variant, except for the JN.1, which made up more than 83% of new cases, has been detected. As South Korea fully shifts to an endemic approach, some of the remaining mandatory safety measures will no longer be applied. The mandatory indoor mask requirement that remained for hospitals and other infection-vulnerable facilities will be lifted, as will be the preemptive COVID-19 tests that were required for people entering such facilities. Quarantining for 24 hours is still recommended for patients after their main symptoms dissipate. Additionally, government coverage of associated medical costs will end, no longer paying for COVID-19 tests or the hospitalization of severely ill patients. Patients will also have to partly pay for Paxlovid, an oral antiviral pill, except for those in low-income groups. COVID-19 vaccine will be freely given to everyone through the 2024 flu season, but afterward, coverage will be limited to high-risk groups, including people aged 65 and over, and those with compromised immune systems. Lastly, government-level response organizations such as the Central Disaster and Safety Countermeasures Headquarters, which has been overseeing COVID-19 related measures since its outbreak, will be disbanded. Kim Bo-kyung, Arirang News.
This past Saturday marked Disabled Persons Day here in South Korea. Our culture correspondent Song Yu-jin spoke with a K-pop group who made their debut that day, whose passion and commitment have already begun to inspire others.
어텐션, 매일 오션입니다. 잘 부탁드립니다.
The name Big Ocean reflects their desire to spread hope and positivity like the feeling you get when gazing at the ocean. All three members, Ji-seok, Hyunjin, and Chanyeon, have hearing impairments. Ji-seok was born with a disability while Hyunjin and Chanyeon experienced partial hearing loss at a young age. They can hear with the help of hearing aids and cochlear implants, but singing and dancing require a whole new level of perseverance and dedication.
We all interpret the bounce, feeling, and beat of a song differently, so it was a bit chaotic at first. Trying to harmonize with each other was challenging, but we worked hard to find a way to blend our differences together.
Since I have difficulty hearing, learning a new song from scratch is tough, so I keep listening to it repeatedly to become more familiar with it. Even then, it can be a struggle to grasp the beat correctly and match the tone and volume of the other members. In those cases, our staff helps out.
After a year and a half of training, they're debuting with their single Light, a remake of first-generation K-pop boy group H.O.T's song of the same title. Their disabilities don't hinder their performances thanks to cutting-edge technology like light and vibrating metronomes. With these, mastering K-pop synchronized sophisticated dance moves is not a problem.
We first converted the sound into a beat vibration through the smartwatch, and also we synced it to the flashing light so that they can see the screen and feel the music with the flashing lights. In this way, they were able to feel the music more clearly, and they later tried to come up with some grooves and bounces too.
What sets Big Ocean apart isn't just their historical debut as the first K-pop group where all members have hearing impairments. They're also inspiring change.
Even with cochlear implant surgery, keeping up with the rhythm and hitting the right pitch is challenging. I think Big Ocean's incredible efforts will prove that disabilities don't confine the realm of arts, especially singing.
That's exactly what Big Ocean hopes to do. Show that music is for everyone and passion knows no limits.
저희 비고전 그룹 앞으로 활동을 통해서 많은 사실 이제 청각 장애뿐만 아니라 다른 장애를 가지고 있는 많은 분들이 계시잖아요. 용기를 좀 더 내서 본인이 하고 싶은 일을 또 하셨으면 좋겠고. 네, 고생하셨습니다. 감사합니다.
송유진, 아리랑 뉴스.
Good morning, I'm Kim Si-young, and now we turn over to stories from around the world. We begin today in the US, where the House of Representatives passed a bill on Saturday that could lead to social media platform TikTok being banned in the country. The legislation would ban the use of social media platform unless its Chinese owner, ByteDance, sells its stake within a year. TikTok on Sunday reacted by expressing concern about the free speech rights of 170 million Americans. US lawmakers labeled the app a potential security risk over fears that the data of American users could be shared with the Chinese government. TikTok insists that it has never shared US data and it never will. A vote in the House in March gave ByteDance about 6 months to divest its US assets or face a ban, with the deadline extended due to the latest vote. President Joe Biden has previously said he would sign such a bill into law. Now to China, where flooding caused by the days of heavy rain in the southern province of Guangdong has triggered an urgent emergency response from the government to protect the 127 million people living in the region. Aerial footage on China's state media CCTV showed multiple villages and farmland underwater as the average rainfall in the province exceeded 120 millimeters in the 3 days leading up to Sunday. Almost 20,000 people in the Qingyuan city have already been evacuated, while classes at some schools have been suspended. The province's Xizang and Beijiang rivers hit their highest water levels in 50 years. As of Sunday, 24 rivers in the region exceeded flood warning water levels as China's National Disaster Prevention Authority issued a Level 3 emergency advisory. The World Anti-Doping Agency confirmed on Saturday that 23 Chinese swimmers tested positive for a banned substance before the 2020 Tokyo Olympics, but accepted China's explanation that the results were due to contamination. 23 members of China's 30-member swimming team tested positive for trimetazidine found in heart medication months before the COVID-delayed Tokyo Games in July 2021, where China won 6 medals for swimming, including 3 golds. According to the Chinese anti-doping agency CHINADA, the athletes were exposed to the banned drug through tainted food. Investigators said that many of China's top swimmers stayed at a hotel in 2020 and 2021, where trace amounts of the substance were found in the kitchen. The U.S. anti-doping agency has criticized WADA's findings. Kenyan Olympic champion Peres Jepchirchir broke the women's only world record as she claimed victory at the 44th London Marathon on Sunday. The 30-year-old 2020 Tokyo Olympics marathon gold medalist ran the 42.195 kilometers in 2 hours, 16 minutes and 16 seconds to break Mary Keitani's previous record of 2 hours, 17 minutes and 1 second. In the men's marathon, her Kenyan compatriot, 27-year-old Alexander Mutiso Munyao, was the winner, crossing the finish line in 2 hours, 4 minutes and 1 second.
Good morning. Cloudy skies are again covering much of the country with some spotty rain expected. East of Gyeongsangdo, Jeollado provinces, as well as Jeju Island will see on and off rain through late this afternoon, so please keep a small umbrella handy in case of rain. It will be cloudy all day, but central regions will see highs going up much higher than yesterday, while the East Coast will continue to see breezy highs this afternoon, hovering in the mid-teens. For a closer look, Seoul gets up to 25, while Daegu tops out at 19 degrees Celsius this afternoon, which is a couple of degrees higher than yesterday. Normal to good air quality is expected all day nationwide today. Then another band of rain is in the forecast for tomorrow, starting from Jeju and spreading to the rest of the southern regions and east of Gangwon-do. Wednesday could be a rainy one for many places. The sun makes a return on Thursday and should stay with us through the weekend. With that in mind, let's take a look at the international weather conditions.
We thank you for watching New Day at Arirang. We'll be back tomorrow for Tuesday's edition at the same time, 9 a.m. Korea time.